Version 8 just is now at RC1, which is, for those of you familiar with our development process, means we've basically gone through all of our testing processes, and it's available for customers to take as a release candidate. Generally, we'll go through a couple release candidates, but it is available. So we're basically done, other than some minor find and fix cycles that are specific to customers. Okay, so what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to highlight some of these, the version 8 changes, and most of them have already been discussed today, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the systems engineering stuff. Get this out of the way. I'm using the computer down here, so I have some room for the mouse to work. Okay. So let me start by saying that version 8, there is over 1,000 changes that happened in the last 10 months to get us to version 8. That's probably about 20% more than our last couple releases, so it is a lot. We've done some fundamental things that you may not see but improve the product for the future, and we've done some things that are pretty much in your face, too. So let's just dive right into it. Out of the 1,000 changes, I've just picked a few. Some of these aren't demonstratable, but are worthy of discussing, so I've put those in here as well. So there's many more impactful changes than what I've listed here. It's just to save time, we're just limiting it to this. The first one I think is pretty cool. So how many people know that we were releasing the Auros for mobile? Anybody know that? You knew? Okay. Few people. So we have big plans for Auros for mobile. The concept of knowledge-aware engineering, again, there's a distinction between this idea of how to do knowledge-aware engineering and Auros as the technology that does it. One can foresee that there may be other technologies in the future that do this. But mobile is a big part of that because the knowledge and the flow can happen where computers aren't, right? So we needed a mobile platform or a basis to do assessment activities in the field, and as well as to make it convenient for those that need ready access on a mobile platform. So let me just show you a little bit, and by all means feel that this is an opportunity for you to critique too, because we want as early as feedback. Since this is the first version, as much feedback as possible would be great. So if you think things don't look right, please let's get these things out now. So this is your early look. There's a login page, and there's a configuration page and all that stuff, but those are boring, so we're going to skip those. This is the main dashboard, okay? And the main dashboard lists all the assets that are assigned to an individual, right? And so these are links to different assets. So here we got assessments as creators, assessments as evaluator, pending approvals. I think from the executive standpoint, the approval console here would be very nice. So the approval comes up. Oh, instead of waiting until you go log in, if somebody needs something done right away, you can approve it from your phone. So those aren't implemented. The dashboard is implemented, but we'll get to those things later. I'll tell you what's implemented specifically. The issues pending, the approvals, issue as creator, issues assigned, those will be by default only ones that are in open status or a working status. The task module, and sets pending approvals. I'll get to that later. But what's really implemented so far in this, that dashboard is live, it works, and there's an overflow tray here that lets you arrange and decide what widgets you want. You only want the approval widget, you turn off all the other widgets, and you only get the approval widget, giving you that real-time count, okay? So for this first release, it's centered around assessments and doing assessments in the field. So this is Android and iPhone support. So we have a concept of a mobile assessment. So this is just one screen. This is setting the, we got an assessment loaded and we're editing the status. So you can edit the status of the assessment. It comes from the overflow menu. There is a selection tool to pick specific rows if you want to go and see the summary of all the rows in an assessment and what status they are. So this is like a very trimmed down version of the line item sheet. So this assessment just has 3 line items, but obviously can be much larger. But then the active assessment tool. So here we have an assessment loaded onto this. Can you guys see it? It's a little bit hard. So we're in assessment 11687. That's pretty, for those of you who are familiar with assessments, that's a pretty standard thing to know the idea of the assessment that you're working on. And we're in a line item, and there's two left-right swipe areas. So let's talk about the first one. The first one is basically like changing rows. You swipe right, and you're going a row underneath. Swipe right again, you're going another row underneath. And swipe left, you're going up a row, right? That last screen I showed you was, I just want to pick a row from way down here. It shows you all the rows. You just click on the row, and that's the one you are. So we're in evaluation mode here. And the bottom section here with the left to right arrows is swiping through the columns. So you can evaluate. So this is a way in very small real estate to travel or traverse a very large matrix, left and right, columns and rows. And what's an assessment? A very large matrix of columns and rows, right? So now you can very quickly get to where you want to go, and you can evaluate all the typical kinds of elements that you normally are used to evaluating. So everybody knows what well, the people who are familiar with Auros know that we have something called a primary conformance palette. That's your statusing of your row, and that's done at the top, right? So here the conformance palette is not applicable green, you guys all conform, do your own palettes, obviously. But this one's color-based, and you can just touch it and you're evaluating. All the history is supported, all the business rules are not supported yet. And under here we have a fixed list multiple type column to be evaluated. That one is got the same thing with a different color. It also supports rule processing. So we've gone all the way through rule processing. So there's when the row has a value table, the little lightning bolt shows up. You press the lightning bolt, the pretty standard looking rule processing window that you guys have all seen many times today. You fill in the values, and the conformance or the qualitative response when you hit resolve shows you. Right? And it also will update the conformance state. So if you were in the field and you had your mobile phone and you're auditing a car or something like that, and you took a measurement, you could put in the measurement, hit resolve, and it would update the status of that quality check. You're doing a railhead audit, for example, an automotive example. It's also integrated into the phone. So down there is to take a picture. So it's probably, we feel, we're probably one of the better, more useful features. If you're on a tablet and you're auditing a robotic welding station that's just been installed on the plant floor, and you've got a series of criteria, and you see that it's just knocked into another piece of equipment, and you wanted to attach the image of what it just did, you take your tablet and you just press that button, and it's bam, the image is attached to your line item in the assessment. So truly trying to get into the mobile and the evaluation, and it doesn't have to be in the field, but now you really have the opportunity to take the assessment to where the work is being done. Plant floor being a very, very primary in the field kind of use case. Okay, I'm going to stop. Questions on the mobile stuff? Anybody want any questions? Go ahead, Joe.
Can you edit a feedback?
Not yet. So we have the dashboard done. Did we just lose everything? Oh, we got a question? If you have a credential, if you have created a My Stuff report, can it be added to the mobile app? Also not yet. So these are things, the only thing we've really done so far is the dashboard, which gives you the totals of stuff, and so you can at least see an approval that's pending. We'll eventually fill in the links so you can do them. Right now it's just assessments. Next, unless this group tells us we should reprioritize, we'll be doing issues. You'll be able to change the status of an issue, read an issue, edit an issue, and we'll probably move and take the status based on your direction. It's really going to be up to the user group to tell us what features need to be evaluated next. I would imagine that reports would be a really cool stuff to have. Go ahead.
Can you add a picture to your picture library?
No, because there's kind of the library concept for pictures on assessments. Right now, the pictures are only for assessments, and the library isn't really associated so much with an assessment as it is with your community. So the answer is kind of no for now. But that would be kind of cool, right? Take a picture and just say, add it to this community's image library.
Take pictures and then we email it and then we load it as a file and continue
It takes too long. It would be much easier, yeah, I agree. Any other question? Mobiles, yes. Oh, so that should be high priority for us.
I don't know, but yeah, it's something that's...
Well, that's a lot easier than doing some of the other stuff. So maybe we'll work on reports first, right? Because that's just visualizing data that exists. It's a lot heavier development effort if you're actually manipulating data than just visualizing it.
Yeah, if I'm down on the floor and I create an issue or so forth, I go back up to my computer, it'll be up on my main screen as well, right? It's linked.
Yeah, they're the same issues, exactly the same issues. So if you go to My Stuff, My Issues on your computer screen, you just raise one on the floor from the phone, yeah, it'll be there.
I get it, Mike. So, question, with the going through the assessment, we group ours by like an attribute, like a peer review topic or
Yep.
categorization. Is that going to be possible? Because I think the order of the CAPEX is not necessarily in a nice...
If you're asking me if it's possible in the future, but no, the current version doesn't group in the assessment evaluation mode, it doesn't.
I would probably suggest that.
Suggest that.
Because if you have an assessment that's got 200 line items, flipping through is not going to be
So what we
that
do have,
conducive.
Nicole, we do have a line item chooser. So I kind of showed you it only had 3 line items, so it doesn't matter. And there's a keyword search there. So you can just type in any text and it'll reduce the list of CAPEX that you have.
But is it by title or is it by another attribute?
I think it's by title and description of the CAPEC. I'll have to get back to you, know for sure, but I think it's both. So that helps. It's by description. It's by CAPEC description. It's not as good as group, but it does help a little bit. Okay. Okay, team board expansions. So a couple this evening we had General Motors and Navistar both talk a little bit about team boards. So there is extensive changes over our initial release of team boards in version 8. I'm just going to highlight a few of those. Okay, what I'm going to show you is the Auros server that we use to run our company. These are projects that we have categorized by specific project type, and we have a release category and our release project. So this is everything we do in our software factory for our V8 release. And we're in a fairly mature status. It's not showing? Oh, I was just doing all kinds of cool stuff here. So these are all of our projects that make up the Auros company. We have a column here for the release projects. We're just starting our 8.1 project. We finished our 7.5 project, and I'm going to open up the project team board. I'll start with the Gantt chart. You can see we're past our milestones, all of our phase gate engineering we've since completed. It works just like the way Wendy was telling you it works, where the flags, what people are calling flags, we call them checkpoints. The checkpoints are derived dates that are team-specific that react to milestones that are set top-down. So the milestones are these the black diamonds. They're set top-down, and they're shared across team boards. And then the team-specific timing is set by these checkpoints. The checkpoints are derived based on these milestones. So we can set a date we want to release, and the whole plan will back itself out that are specific to the team. And that process is logical in nature as well, right? So that's the time calendarization of the process, but the logical process, the events and the assessments that we do are fit into a logical model that is a knowledge packet itself. So the model here of the process, and this really is our process, this is the process we go through, the gates, the quality events, the testing, the assessments, everything totally non-engineering, non-physical engineering, all those same things apply. That's not new in 8. The team boards, the issues wall, really what's functionally really crazy different is the reports wall. So this reports wall represents the key measurements that I personally need to see every day, pretty much every day, to understand the software factory is working and that we're on a glide path to release on a certain day with quality. Kind of matches everybody else. So it's a different look. The reports look better in this version. So GM, I know you've seen this quite a bit already. Navistar, you've seen it quite a bit. So it's a little cleaner looking. The reports expand a little better. They're interactive. You can pick sections and drill down and go right into the detail of whatever the metrics are. And so you can create custom reports and pin them. It's kind of like a pin-up corkboard idea. You create your report, you pin it to the team board, and everybody comes to the team board and can see the report. That's kind of new. The way these behave has been refined quite a bit. All new is this black band across the top. We call that a KPI ribbon, and the numbers on that ribbon are called KPIs. So we talked a little bit about it yesterday. I talked a little bit about it more. So without any programming, you can go into, if you have administrative rights, you can create one of 5 different kinds of categories of KPIs. Counts of issues, counts of assessments, dates with milestones, reported values, and then you can write reported value functions, expressions as value tables that do things like create qualitative segments. The percent completion for this release, you would expect it to be 100%. It's 99.99%. It's basically complete. And that's green based on the phase of engineering that we're in. We're in the RC1 phase. 99% is an acceptable level. Okay? So you can create these KPIs, and they're completely real time. Your people are out doing assessments. You don't have to say, how much have you done in your assessment? How much percentage are red? You create a KPI and just track it. Right? And you can do nice slicing and dicing and create custom rules and create your own KPI. You can create a KPI called risk, and you can use all the different measurements, combine them, average them, max them, minimum, and give yourself a custom risk score. And you can even change its chinning bar based on what phase of engineering you're in. So you heard a couple people talk about trends. So I'm going to look at this trend called let's look at the total issue count. So when you turn trending on a KPI, what it does is it allows you to it basically just tracks the data over time. So your KPI is, you get a time series value of your KPI. So you see the green band under the 99 above the chart. There's a number of different ways that you can turn yellow, green, red, blue, and put qualitative scores on these KPIs. One is to write a value table that gives you a segment that says, just like you would do a parameter of like edge length or something. But you can do it with a trend too. So in software, how many people else do software? Any software guys over here? So there's the idea of burn down is really important in software, right? You start with a content plan. And during certain sprints, you're burning down the amount of work that needs to be done. So what that looks like is a reverse of this chart, and I'll show it to you in a second. But what's important is that your function, your objective, is not the same on any given day because it's decreasing every day. You want your work backlog to be reduced every single day. So we can take a release package, take the trend data, export it, import it into the next project, and compare it. Line up the dates and just compare how we're doing. Take another trend data, put it into the same report here, and then show it, and then have it be an upper bound or a lower bound, and actually turn the KPI red or green based on the preferred profile. Now, I know at the OEM level, this is done quite a bit. Okay, so some of this was mirrored for some of the lean, agile concepts in software engineering. Some of it, and it's hybridized with the kind of issue management stuff we see people doing in Excel at the OEM level. So people like to track numbers of open issues or critical issues or engineering changes, and they like to see these profiles, and they have profiles that they want to track against. And so that's really what we're doing here. We're kind of at the infancy of it, but it's functional and robust in version 8. So this trending stuff, the fact that you guys all mentioned it today tells me I think it's going to be a pretty big feature in 8. So for the management types in the room, hopefully this is something that you'd like to see. Your team boards, you got to new project or you got a project that's old, you can sit there, you can look at it, you can import the profile of issues from one program into the profile, the KPI of this program, and kind of compare how they performed by lining up the dates. By the way, that little steep acclivity is just an anomaly. We changed the way we were doing data, and we imported some data, and we got that acclivity. It should be continuous. Okay, so here's one that has the profile in it. Now, it's not actually calculating a date, a qualitative score, because the profile that I provided that says it's good or bad ended, and we're past that date. So we're still tracking the data until we turn the project into a different status. But normally, so you see the kind of the teal trend is where we want for the burn down, and you can see the way we actually performed relative to the burn down. This is real data. This is our actual performance for our current 8 project. So this is a requirements burn down for software engineering. But it can be applied in a lot of different ways. Okay, so that is the expansion of team boards and most specifically the trending stuff and the KPI stuff. Any questions on that? Nothing? Jeff?
Can we, for example, have what reports exist on a given team board, or are the reports always unique to the particular team board?
Sort of. Sort of. So you can reports, and then you can use those reports on a particular program, but you have to go and pin it to the team board. Right now, that's about the only thing you can't templatize on the team board. I see that ER coming. Okay. Hashtag and Hovercard annotation support. So in version 7.6 that many of you have, we introduced hovercards for issues. Has anyone played with hovercards yet? Nope. A little bit in GM. I foresee that this is going to be a big deal because it was a very big deal for us. So let me explain what they are. So I'm going to go into Auros real quick. I'm going to go into this farbulator engineering community that we used earlier yesterday. And you see a little card-looking thing here. It's just a reference card for everybody to understand how to create these hovercard links. So basically what it's telling you is that you can create a hovercard to a KPAC, to a set, to an assessment control, to a line item in an assessment control, to an issue, or to a team board. And basically hovercard will give you a synopsis information of the current status of that object wherever you're inputting this into. So let me explain. So I'm going to open up let's see, I'll open up this particular KPAC tooling 43. Now this one doesn't have any hovercards in it, but every KPAC issue, line item, and assessment gives you a tooltip that tells you how to do it. So here's a hashtag link to this particular, if I copy this and paste it anywhere, it's going to create that hovercard. So what does that look like? This little tool shows me what it looks like, so if I press it, put my mouse over it, gives me the hovercard. So that's what hovercard. So I can be in an issue, I can put a bunch of these hashtags to KPACs, to issues, to line items, to assessments, to sets, and it gives me this really nice, you can't really see this here, can you? It gives me a nice card that comes up and it gives me a synopsis of what's in that link without having to travel to that link. So let me show you an example of why that's so important. So I'm going to go back to my version 8 team board. I'm going to go to my issues wall, and I got a master issue here. So we, in our software factory, do this a ton. So there's lots of different ways to create links, but we really enjoy, especially in issues management, creating hovercard links to other issues. This is what we call a master enhancement. It's really ugly, isn't it? Why is it so blurry? That didn't help, did it? All right, I'll just continue. Anyway, within this issue, I'm trying to zoom out. Okay, a little too much. Right, so we got an issue, and whoever wrote this issue was saying something and referring to another issue, and in that issue we get this nice little hover card, which is very much squashed in this graphics here, that gives you a link to another thing. So in the modern world of hashtagging and links and on the fly, let's just go, this is a great way to get really short annotations. Hey, did you see this? And just put the hashtag there, and they don't have to follow a link, that'll just stay embedded. It gets rendered, and when they mouse over, they get both the link and this hover card for it. So again, you can embed these in just about every text, inside discussions, inside KPACs, inside issues, inside assessment stuff, and you can get these nice hover card links from one object to another. Moving along. Okay, I'm not going to get too much into any of these. I'm only saying this one for the customers that rely on requery. A couple presentations talked about the yellow box with the blue circle back. It's really important. The assessment goes out and finds all the latest know-how and brings back KPACs. So the way we're doing that has changed quite a bit in version 8. I won't get into the details, but I wanted everybody to be aware of that. We've made it a lot more intuitive. Inline filters. Let me just show you this because those of you that do a lot of Auros stuff will appreciate it. Okay, you get these long filter boxes when you get mature, and sometimes it's hard to find what's in some of these filter boxes. So you can just type in at the top. Okay, for those people that use Auros a lot, it comes in really handy. It's another feature that, since we use Auros all the time, it really helps us out. So one person thought it was cool, I heard it. Yeah, there's some hands being raised. So Wendy talked about this project synchronization to a master schedule. It is a big deal. It will be very useful for the bigger companies. So if you've got a tool that does master scheduling, that gives the teams the milestones, but the team is out writing their own task lists against those milestones, and you lose connectivity, oh, I didn't get that update for the milestone, you can solve that problem now. We can hook up to the master system, and everybody's dates get arrayed based on these checkpoints. It requires some integration work, but the way it gets done, I think, is going to be robust and very, very efficient. A lot of performance enhancements. Everybody wants those. And then I saved the best for the last. Okay, so the other day yesterday I was talking about systems engineering. So I'm going to go to our demo site. We're in the Farbulator community. Boy, the resolution is all messed up. So how many people knows that there's a difference between global parameters and local parameters? Anybody familiar with that concept? Okay, a few people. So it really doesn't matter too much to Auros whether you're using local or global parameters, but global parameters promote the sharing of concepts and grammar from one community to the next, right? So I'm in a body engineering community in Warren, Michigan, and my counterpart, and I'm doing hoods, and my counterpart in the UK is doing bonnets, right? So, we want to have a common grammar, and this is a way to kind of fit that common grammar. So we've enhanced the way we show within a community global parameters so we can find them easily. So there's a global parameter report. These are all global parameters, where they're defined, which KPACs evaluate them, and where they're an input to be evaluated something else. And then there's the local parameter list that basically gives you that as well. So if you're writing value tables, you have parameters. And if you have parameters, you want to know where those parameters get used. We've greatly enhanced that. So you get these tables that link all the way around. But what's really cool when you get into systems engineering, we got a global parameter called material. It's used in a whole bunch of KPACs. We see that. But I want to see that visually. So what we've got is a parameter visuals traceability map, okay? And we have a very specific, you've probably seen these before, but ours is different. Ours has a very specific Auros type of flavor. So we've got a global parameter identified by this P, farbulator material, and we see that it's used in one community, the farbulator community. It can be used in many communities, but now I know it's only being used in one community. And this is the community. We got a community Hovercard, so more Hovercards. And I can see that it's being used in 5 different K-packs. So now I know visually that this one parameter is used in the slot depth relationship CAD check. It's used in the design guide for parting lines. It's used in the thickness of ribs. It's used in the farbulator material choice tool. And it's used in this wall thickness tool. So I can go into any of these and see what that functional relationship is. So now I see there's a mapping from a parameter to one or more communities, to one or more knowledge packets, which are functional relationships, that then it's used, and I can see that the farbulator material with the P, it shows up as P because it's a global, and it's used in the same K-pack where the length and these 2 lengths are being used as outputs. So the material is an input to these 2 outputs, these 2 materials. Nobody has to map this stuff. So I see a particular automotive OEM that's not here right now doing a lot of this stuff, and they're creating these maps. They're trying to maintain maps. Oh my God, are you kidding me? To top-down manage parameter relationships like this is absolutely crazy. This map exists because K-packs exist. People are creating knowledge packets. Guess what? Nothing has to be done. These maps are a part of business intelligence. Auros is creating this intelligence and creating these visual maps on the top. Okay? So this traceability map is very useful that if you find a parameter and you want to know, or the tables, and you want to know everywhere else where it's being used, whether it's local or global, we can create this map. Global just makes sure everybody is talking the same, using the same words. But local works just fine as well. Local is a little easier because everybody can just pick the parameters they want. Global, they have to choose from choice lists that are predefined with definitions. Okay? So this is a parameter traceability map. Nicole.
So I know you can use a parameter within an assessment and share it amongst like multiple K-packs within the assessment. But can you share that parameter between 2 assessments? So if there's a master assessment and a slave assessment?
You can. You can. There's something called inter-assessment agents that will provide, in one assessment will look up values in another.
So is that something in 7.6 or 8?
No, you have it now. You have it in 7.5, or 7.6, yeah. Agents. Kurt can help you with that. Okay, and one last thing. So I'm back. I'm going to show you now something called a parameter edge map. Okay, this is a very simple parameter edge map. It's only showing the global parameters, and it's showing just a few relationships among the global parameters. Now, in this particular community, there aren't that many global parameters. So this is a pretty simple map. What does it say? I can't see it. 10. Okay. I'm going to turn off the filter for global, and I'm going to include local parameters. We start to get a little more of an interesting map. So the global parameters are grouped by communities where they're defined, and the local parameters are arrayed alphabetically. Now we can start to see in a technical community the relationship amongst parameters that are constantly evolving. If you tried to manage this through linking of parameters, my God, I cannot believe people are trying to do that. They are. They're trying to do that. Top down, this parameter is related to this one, this parameter. Come on, seriously? Let people create K-packs and we'll map it out for you. We'll do it for you dynamically. This visualization technique is very, very cool, too. So let me go ahead and then extend the scope to a larger system. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to modify the scope. Instead of looking at the product development community, run a bit slow, come on. We can extend the scope. So there's a whole bunch of communities, including manufacturing. I'll go ahead and just pick them all. So I got all the communities in the farbulator, everybody. Let's just see how many edges we can come up with. Apply. And we just got a larger universe of parameters. So now we're looking at the edges, and we can define and trace through. So we can say that the system conformance, total conformance status is related to temperature. Oop, I went to the traceability map. Okay, so we can define all these relationships and visualize a corpus of parameters and automatically have the traceability and visually start to see what parameters are really driving the system just by looking at this map at a glance. It saves massive amount of work. So if you want to understand the impact of changing a parameter, this should be your first stop. Because now we can map all the way through and we can see even the loose relationships. In 8.1, right now these relationships are all considered equal and non-directional. In 8.1, we will start to consider directionality and have different levels of relationships, you know, how strong the correlations are. So these lines will change colors and do different things once we start doing this. Now this body of parameters is just made up data. We have yet to actually take it to a customer that's got some good parameters that are real, that have been created by engineers, and see how these things work. So it's going to be really cool. I just have a really strong feeling that this is going to be a powerful tool in your bids for really understanding traceability, design impact, and systems engineering. Because I see the effort that some companies are going through to get it, and they're going through this massive effort and they're getting squat. They can get what they wanted for free by just having value tables. So we call this the parameter edge cluster. This idea of edge is a social graph kind of thing. Anybody does the Facebook stuff? So Facebook and how they track relationships is kind of all the same kinds of algorithms that are running here too. They're tracing all the edges among these relationships that come from a variety of different data elements, and then we persist that in a way so we can generate these things quickly. Okay, that's all I got for version 8. Questions for version 8?
Let's say as you're doing this, you see the temperature is one parameter, and then and it's associated to others. And you could even see where it's associated to a K-pack, and then you see temp. Someone put TEMP in there. Can I change and edit this in such that it will then update the K-packs that are associated to it?
Unfortunately, because of the change management processes in Auros, whoever owns that temp needs to change it. But that's why global parameters are such a good idea. So, and these maps are a good idea. So what will happen, let's say we had this at ZF, you'll probably find that scenario, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so in this map, because they'll be alphabetical, when they're not grouped by COP, they're grouped by, subgrouped by alphabetically. The two temps will be probably close to each other, right? So you'll find you'll see temp and temperature. Okay, are they really the same? No? Let's differentiate them. Let's go find the author. Let's see who the two authors are, which is very easy to do. Because remember, there's not an author for a parameter. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I go to, but there is for a global parameter name. So if I go to temperature and I want to look down, right? See the communities. There's only one. It's only in one community. There's only one K-pack. But the potential was actually that there could be 10 K-packs using temperature and 3 using temp, and all 3 temps could be different authors. So there's a little bit of a change management process to see, well, this one temp is actually the temp of the casting, and this other temp is actually the same temp that I have as temperature. Hey, let's create a global parameter because we want other people to have this. I want this map to work. We create the global parameter. Then when other people start writing value tables, that's the list they get. They get the global parameters first. Then they can, if they don't know that they're using the right one, when it's a global parameter, they click on it, they get the full definition, and everybody knows, oh, yeah, I'm absolutely sure that's the temperature. They use that in their value table. Then these maps are all, the traceability map as well as the edge map are all correct. But how do you ferret out those errors if you don't have these visualizations? It's really hard. So another way that I think people are doing it is they're going into the taxonomy thinking and saying we got to create a giant taxonomy of parameters and then force everybody to use them. Anybody tried that? It's very difficult to pull off because the parameters you want are constantly changing. It's much better to build the taxonomy bottom up from the data that you got and just promote, clean it continuously. Because if you have a taxonomy that doesn't include something that someone needs when they need it, guess what? They'll stop using it. So you let them create local. Where you find these things, you decide to promote to global, you start to share them, and you continually, you adapt the process as you go. It's a bottom-up adaptive systems outperform top-down hierarchical processes every time in every facet of life. That's just my little philosophical thing. Okay, anything more about version 8? Everybody ready to go? Okay, thank you so much. Like before that, can I have the Auros AE stand up? Hey, you guys, these guys put in a ton of work to make the conference done. Thanks, guys. It truly is a lot of work every time we do this. I forget how much work it is. So, and Brittany, yes, again, Brittany stood up before, but Brittany put it on. She did a very, very good job. So thank you for coming to this year's conference. We look forward to next year's conference. Tell your friends about it. Don't forget about the cool KPAC contest next year, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much. Drive safely.